All right, what is going on, everyone? Hope you guys are having a great day so far. So, recording this right now, the first week that my wife's been back to work. So, I've been having Isla for a lot of the day. My mother-in-law has been helping a couple of afternoons so far, but it's been definitely a different change to my schedule of just navigating like getting client check-ins done before Isla wakes up, and then getting both of them, taking them to daycare. Isla's not in daycare yet, but taking Aiden to daycare, taking her with us in the car, and then coming back home, and then navigating work while Isla's awake and needing a bottle and all this stuff, and her diaper change, and it's been different, right? But it's been good, and it's been good to kind of spend, I guess, more time with Isla so far. Like, because the first 2 months when my wife was off of work, I knew like this month, the month of October, that okay, like my work and extra things for work that I'm going to be able to do are going to be a little bit more limited because she's going to be home with just me. So I kind of really grinded in September and even like most of August with work to get as much done as possible while my wife was home. So I didn't really get to spend too much time with Isla during the day. Like in the evenings, I was able to, spend time with her, hold her and everything like that. But um, during the day, not as much because I was just focused on work, work, work. So it's been kind of nice to like be able to spend a little bit more time with her in the afternoon. So been navigating that this week, but I wanted to come on here and talk about a super important topic. Like I had a variety of topics that were going through my head based off of so many really awesome and insightful conversations I've been having with clients. But the one I wanted to talk about today is the fact that your fitness journey shouldn't and can't be just about fat loss, or you are going to fail long term. I can't tell you how many conversations I've had with clients when they first sign on, or potential clients, or people just in the DMs, where the only time they're really ever doing something with their fitness is when they are trying to actively lose weight or lose body fat. Like if they are actively in fat loss mode or weight loss mode, where okay, it's January 1st, time to lose weight, over the next 4 months for the summer, or they have some kind of downtime in their life where okay, life doesn't feel as busy, so now I'm going to pursue fat loss. Unless it's one of those times, a lot of times that switches off for them, and they aren't really focusing on workouts as much. They're really inconsistent. They're not really focusing on how much food they're eating, whether they're tracking their food or not. They're not really focused on getting walks in and staying active. And a lot of times people will think, okay, hiring a coach or getting a coach during this time period too, when they're not actively focusing on fat loss, is a waste. They're like, okay, I want to hire a coach for this 3 month or 6 month time frame to lose weight, and then once I lose the weight, then I'm done with coaching. And that's kind of the mentality they have, where they think, okay, I ramp all of this fitness type stuff and these fitness guidelines up when I want to lose body fat. But then the problem is when you're not actively trying to lose body fat, you kind of let all of it drop. And that's where that repeated cycle happens, where you start a program or you start coaching and you do something and you lose the weight, you see progress, but then you quit and you stop, and then all of a sudden you're gaining that 10, 15, 20 pounds that you lost back, and then you're going to have to restart again and lose all that weight again. So I want to give you like three really good examples and a couple other key points as to like why this should not be the case, why you should be doing these things, working out even when you're not actively trying to lose weight, and how important it is, and showcase specific examples of like clients that I'm currently working with, and how it's been so important and so life changing, and so I don't know, another good positive word, so positive for them to still stick with these habits, and even stay in coaching even when they're not actively trying to lose body fat. So number one is one of my clients. She is about 28 weeks pregnant right now, and previously she had been in coaching, and she had gotten pregnant, and she had stopped coaching soon after she got pregnant, kind of with that mentality of okay, I'm pregnant, I'm not actively losing or actively working on body fat loss anymore or weight loss anymore, so I'm going to stop coaching. And complications happen, things like that, and the baby ended up not being born. She ended up having a miscarriage and everything, and we had a conversation this week about just her experience so far this time because she had gotten started with coaching again and had started losing weight again after that happened. And she had then, lost another 10 to 15 pounds, was seeing great progress. And then she got pregnant again, which was amazing, a huge blessing because they had been trying. This has been something that they've been wanting for a long time. And now, 28 weeks later, everything's great. Baby is healthy. She's doing well. All of these things. And I couldn't be more happy for her. But she stayed in coaching this time and she didn't quit coaching. And we had a conversation about, okay, just what has her experience been like in coaching while being pregnant? While obviously fat loss and weight loss wasn't like an immediate goal for her. It wasn't something that she was actively focusing on over the past, 28 weeks. We're looking at roughly 7-ish months now, right? And, she was telling me how good it has been to still stay in coaching, even though for 7 months now, we have not been focusing on fat loss or weight loss. It has not been the goal for us. And through these past 7 months, like she has been far from perfect. And I don't say that to like knock on her because she's amazing. She's so consistent usually. But just, when you're pregnant, you're dealing with all of these symptoms, nausea, fatigue, your hunger is rising, and sometimes you're not hungry at all in the first trimester when we want you to eat more. Getting steps in is a little bit more difficult because of the fatigue, the energy levels, all the changes your body is going through, right? Growing this, beautiful baby. And she's been far from perfect with executing the plan. Like there have been multiple workouts that have been missed, multiple days she hasn't hit her steps, days where she hasn't really tracked her food or hasn't tracked it accurately or has gone over her calorie goal, calorie range, whatever it is, low on protein, but she still stayed with it. And, we were talking about just the difference that has made in how she's felt through this process, how much healthier she feels, how much healthier she looks. Also, the weight gain that she's seen so far compared to before has been much less. Like she gained a lot of weight. These are her words. She gained a lot of weight the first time pretty quickly because she just didn't have any accountability at all, right? She stopped coaching, stopped these habits, dropped all of that accountability, and ended up gaining weight, quite a bit faster than what she had this time. And this time, we obviously like changed the plan, completely revamped it from what we were doing in the fat loss phase. We widened the calorie range for her, lowered the minimum protein goal, lowered the minimum steps, made things way more flexible and doable depending on how she was feeling and all of that. And that's where the one-on-one individualized coaching comes into play. But because we still had some kind of rough guidelines that we were shooting for, and because she still checked in, we still communicated, we still text and voice message a bunch throughout the week. I would ask her how her workouts were doing. If I saw she wasn't doing any workouts, I would not like. I'm the farthest thing from a drill sergeant. All of my clients will tell you that. But if I saw, she wasn't doing any workouts, I would nudge her, be like, hey, let's like try to do some workouts, even if it's just like a couple of exercises here and there. That's better than nothing. And she talked about how much of a difference that has made this time around with just keeping herself from gaining too much body weight. Like, you always want to make sure, like when you're going through pregnancy, you're gaining body weight because that's a good sign that you're eating enough for the baby to grow. You're doing all of those things right, but you also don't want to gain weight too quickly, right? So she talked about how she feels like this weight gain so far in this pregnancy has been just so much more in line with where she would want to be versus gaining weight too quickly. Her overall health has been a lot better, and we talked about too of just like there were so many times where she would have a week where she didn't really track her food at all, or a week where she didn't hit any workouts at all. And like I said, I would kind of nudge her and be like, hey, like let's try to do this, try to dial this in again. And we even had like the past month where we were a little bit too loose with tracking, a little bit too rough with our guidelines, with our nutrition, and we were seeing the weight in the scale kind of go up maybe a little like quicker than what we would like. And we kind of had a little conversation about that. And, she decided that she wanted to, dial in her food tracking a little bit more. And now her weight gain has been a little bit more steady versus just like the big kind of spike we were seeing before. And like we talked about those two circumstances of the workouts and just tracking her food and maybe gaining weight too quickly, where like if she wasn't in coaching and wasn't doing this process and wasn't paying attention to these things, and if she would have had the mentality of, oh, I'm pregnant, so I'm just gonna like not track my food at all, I'm not going to aim for a step goal at all or be mindful of that. I'm not going to like have workouts that I'm trying to do. I'm not going to do coaching anymore because I'm pregnant. A lot of those habits probably would have dropped, right? Because a big reason why they've stuck has been because, she's had this plan that is very objective. Okay, this is what I need to do each week or want to try to do each week. And then she's also had the person there for support to kind of nudge her along the way, which has made the biggest difference. And, we just had that conversation yesterday, and I thought it was really insightful of just like how valuable doing this while still being pregnant has been for her versus if she would have just completely dropped everything, right? And that could be a big difference between like your health, how healthy your pregnancy goes, how strong you feel like during labor and delivery, pushing that baby out, and then also your recovery after having the baby. And also too, like when you have a baby, a lot of times, not always, but a lot of times, like women will want to lose some of that weight that they've lost. And it's like if you have some rough guidelines and support to keep some of these habits in place, and instead of gaining, let's say, 60 or 70 pounds in your pregnancy, not saying that's a bad thing, but just kind of putting numbers out there, instead of gaining 60 or 70 pounds throughout your pregnancy, maybe you gain 30 or 40, that's a potential 30 to 40 pounds after the baby comes that you don't have to like worry about trying to lose after, which makes a big difference, right? And that could be like 30 or 40 pounds is like 9 months to a year's worth of work of fat loss that you have to kind of make up for. So just wanted to highlight her story because I think it was a really good example. And we were just talking about this yesterday of just how valuable it has been to still be doing these things and attempting to doing these things while obviously fat loss hasn't been a focus for her. And then obviously like being in coaching to have the human support, to nudge her and the accountability along the way. I have another client. She is roughly somewhere around like 26, 28 weeks pregnant too. I actually have 3 clients who are around that far along, which is kind of fun. But she actually joined coaching like, I think it was like 5 weeks after she got pregnant. So she actually was not a client before she got pregnant. She actually joined like around 5 or so weeks after she got pregnant, which is like the complete opposite of what most people would do. Most people, like if they're doing coaching and then they get pregnant, they, and maybe stick with it. But very rarely does somebody like get pregnant and know they're pregnant and then immediately start coaching after. But that's what she did. And I really applaud her for that because she went into it with that mentality of, I've had 3 other pregnancies. I haven't been healthy during those pregnancies. My health is not in a good spot now. I really need to make sure that during this pregnancy, my health does not get worse. And I really need to make sure that I approach this in the healthiest way possible. That way, like when I do want to lose more weight after the baby comes, like I'm not digging myself an even deeper hole. So I really applaud her for that because that is such a like mature way to think about things. And I don't say mature in terms of like childlike or adult-like, but mature in terms of you're just looking far ahead into the future and looking more long-term and not thinking so short-term. So like was just really impressed when she reached out for coaching because of that, because most people rarely do that. So she's already approaching it with the perfect mindset that you need to have. But she messaged me yesterday about she passed her glucose test with flying colors this time around. And like I said, she's about 26, 28 weeks pregnant now. So she's been in coaching for about 5 months now. She passed her glucose test with flying colors. And her other 3 pregnancies, she always had really high numbers. So that has significantly improved. Based on where her body weight was at when she started coaching, when she was about 5 weeks pregnant, she met with her doctor and they talked about like, okay, like how much weight should I even potentially want to gain during this pregnancy? And they kind of had a conversation of mostly just maintaining, just based on where her current body weight, is at when she started, right? That's not going to be the recommendation for a lot of people. A lot of people will need to see like definitely, like a noticeable change on the scale of increase, as the baby grows. But based on where she started, it was kind of like relayed to her from her doctor that, okay, gaining a little bit of weight is probably good, but we probably want to keep it to pretty minimal. And so far, since she started coaching 5 months ago and has been pregnant, I mean, she's gained maybe like a few pounds, which has been right on pace with what like her doctor recommended with her staying healthy based on where she started when she did get pregnant. And if she wasn't in coaching and didn't decide to prioritize this process and her health and her nutrition and her fitness and her steps just because she got pregnant, and if she would have had the mentality of, oh, I'm pregnant, so let me just push back these goals, another 9, 10, 11 months once I'm recovered and ready to start working out again. I mean, who knows where she would be 5 months into being pregnant now? Like, she very well could have had, not even 5 months into pregnancy, but 5 months into coaching. So probably like 6 or 7 months into pregnancy. But she very well could be, up a good amount of weight or in a much unhealthier spot, like her other pregnancies were, to where now she's setting herself up for so much more success compared to where she would have been if she wouldn't have decided that this is a priority, even though fat loss right now is on the back burner. Like, we had that conversation clearly when she signed up for coaching that, hey, you're 5 to 6 weeks pregnant. Like, we're not going to be focusing on actual fat loss for a long time. We are going to focus on, long way for her. And I'm like, we're not going to focus on fat loss. So just want to make sure that you have clear expectations of when you sign on as a client, until that baby comes and until you're fully recovered, like, fat loss is not going to be the priority. But we can focus on, maybe improving your body composition just from starting to work out, exercise, and eat the right way. We can focus on building a really good foundation of habits of how to put together balanced meals, learning the skills of how to even just track your food in general, learning what it's like to get, 6, 7, 8,000 steps in a day, learning what it's like to start consistently working out. So then when we do that through pregnancy, not only is it allowing her to have a really healthy pregnancy compared to her last three, not only is it allowing her to pass her glucose test when she didn't previously, not only is it helping her to build some strength through the workouts and the step goal, but it's building a solid foundation of all of these skills needed to be successful with fat loss after the baby comes. So now, once she has that baby and she is a little bit more clear to, okay, like, let's go into a fat loss phase, actually, like, it's going to be a much simpler, just tiny switch of, okay, let's go into a fat loss phase now. Like, she already has all these habits that she's building and putting into place, versus if she were to have waited to prioritize this journey until after the baby came, until she was, cleared to start losing weight, let's say a couple of months after the baby's here, like, she would have had to start learning to track her food then. She would have had to start learning what even keeping track of a step goal looks and feels like, or what getting 8,000 steps even looks or feels like. She would have had to start learning how to, like, balance her meals after, while dealing with, like, while taking care of a newborn, right? So because she didn't just make her fitness journey all about only the times that she can actively lose fat, and decided, hey, this fitness journey, this health journey is important even during this time period where I'm pregnant, I'm not actively losing fat. We've been able to build such a solid foundation, and I'm so excited to see how much success she's going to have, like, once she has the baby and we go down that route of, going through fat loss phases, because she has built such a great foundation and has continued to focus on just getting a little bit better each and every week. And she has not been perfect by any means, but it's gone such a long way. So that's just another example that I wanted to share too. But there are so many other examples I could throw out here too, as to why doing this thing and having coaching maybe along the way is so important, even when you aren't actively trying to lose body fat. Because there will be times where you are going to be traveling. There are going to be times over the summer where you're going to have a lot of, like, family get-togethers, barbecues, going out in the boat, and then going to get dinner here, dinner there. There are going to be so many times over the holidays where, like, you are going to be in positions where it's probably not going to be feasible or realistic or practical for you to be trying to lose weight. Like, on Thanksgiving Day or on Christmas Day, it's probably not realistic for you to be like, hey, I'm going to keep my calories down so I'm in a 500 calorie deficit on that day. Like, that's probably not realistic, and mentally it's probably something you shouldn't be trying to do. And if you have a lot of events around that time over the holidays where you're seeing different family members, friends, all of that, it's probably going to be unrealistic to do it during those days too. Not impossible. Like, sure, yes, you could limit your calories and bring your calories down and track your food really precisely on those days. But I mean, you're probably not going to enjoy them as much versus if you just kind of relaxed a little bit more and ate closer to maintenance. And same thing goes for all those other days kind of surrounding the holidays. So there are going to be time, and I said traveling too, but this goes the same way. Like there are going to be vacations where, okay, if you go to a vacation or you go into an all-inclusive resort, are you going to try to meticulously track your calories, bring your food scale, and try and weigh and measure your food and try to be in a calorie deficit while you're at an all-inclusive resort vacation? Probably not. Or if you go on a cruise, probably not. So you have to learn how to still make good choices, like reasonable choices, even if fat loss is not the direct number one priority in that moment. Um, if you want to be successful long term. If not, if you don't learn how to do that, then you will just continuously go down this cycle or this rabbit hole of losing a bunch of weight, and then you go on a week vacation and you gain 5 to 10 pounds back. Losing 5 to 10 pounds. Oh, and then we have like these holiday get-togethers or this weekend away, I gain another 5 pounds, and continuously end up losing and gaining the same 5 to 10 pounds, maybe even 15 pounds, however much, over and over and over and over. And this is why, like, the way we coach clients and the way, even if you're not even a client, this is how you should go about your fat loss journey, is having planned diet breaks or maintenance periods at least every 2 to 3 months of pursuing a fat loss phase. And those diet breaks or maintenance periods should be at least 2 weeks long. And probably after you've done like 3 cycles of fat loss, you should probably have a pretty extended diet break or maintenance phase that's probably at least a month long, probably closer to a couple of months long at least. So what that would look like is, let's say, January to April, you're in a fat loss phase for, let's say, 12 weeks. Then you do a 2 week diet break. And then from like mid-April to, let's say, July, you do another fat loss phase, let's say. And then you probably want to do at least a couple week diet break there. And then maybe from, let's say, mid-July to, let's say, October, you do another fat loss phase. After that, you probably want to do a good diet break or maintenance phase for at least a couple of months, maybe even 3 months, like over the whole entire holidays, and practice how to still maintain all of these habits essentially, but you're maintaining the nutrition habits with just eating a little bit more food closer to maintenance. And that's going to really teach you how to maintain all of the weight you lose along the way. And that way you eliminate these cycles of, okay, this switch is turned on when my life is calmed down and quiet and I'm actively losing body fat and I'm doing unsustainable things to get there. And then now when life is busy or I go through a period where I'm not focusing on fat loss because the holidays or a trip, my switch is completely turned off and I have no idea how to find that middle ground of good nutrition habits, eating close to maintenance, still working out, still keeping track of my steps. Maybe you're aiming for 7 to 8,000 instead of 10,000 because you're not in the fat loss phase anymore. So you're able to get away with walking a little bit less, but you still overall maintain most of those habits. So then you maintain all that weight along the way. And that's how you really achieve a long-term transformation that's going to stick. And it's not going to be just a short-term thing where, okay, it's time for fat loss, so now I'm engaged. And then when it's not time for fat loss, then I just completely fall off and like I have no mindfulness, no idea how many calories I'm eating when I'm not in a fat loss phase. We don't want those two extremes. We want the fat loss phase to be very similar to what your maintenance looks like. Like your workouts should all basically be the same. Your step goal should be pretty much the same, maybe just a couple thousand less when you're in a maintenance phase. Your calorie range shouldn't be entirely different. Like just eating, 400 to 500 calories more most days when you're in maintenance. And then your protein should be the same. But like all of these other habits, prioritizing sleep, workouts, they should all look so similar when you're in a maintenance phase versus the fat loss phase. Just a fat loss phase, like you could say, the intensity is just dialed up a little bit more with like the calorie drop and the, step goal being a little bit higher. But everything else should be just constant. And if that's not what your life looks like, where a fat loss phase is just feels like kind of a minor tweak where, okay, I'm eating a little bit less than what I do in maintenance and maybe walking a little bit more. If your fat loss phase versus non-fat loss phase doesn't look like that subtle difference, then that's part of the problem. Part of the reason why you keep gaining and losing the weight back is because you're simply only prioritizing coaching or only prioritizing just this journey in general when you actively want to lose fat. And when you can't actively lose fat because of a holiday, traveling, you're pregnant, whatever situation, you're recovering from something, you let all these habits drop, and then those periods are just filled with gaining weight back. So hopefully this was kind of insightful, especially if you're somebody who you always find yourself going through those cycles of being really engaged with the process and then just kind of almost completely falling off. It's probably because you're not actually learning how to prioritize a lot of these habits still while not actively trying to lose body fat. Like, you need those periods where you're still in it, maybe a little bit less intensity, right, to give yourself a little bit more flexibility because you're not actively trying to chip away body fat from your body, but they're still basically there. And a good way to keep that going, not the only way, but a good way, is to have coaching and support along the way. Because if you don't, it's really easy to let those habits slip. So hopefully this was insightful and helpful. Appreciate you all, and I will talk to you in the next one.